Hello students. I welcome you all on behalf of Wiley, and we are today going to discuss this year's Civil Services Prelims paper, the questions related to science and technology. Right. So this year's paper, as you have by this time, you must have seen, and those who have appeared, that this year's paper was a bit tough. And an overall assessment would give you an idea that compared to previous years, this first paper was relatively tough, including the CSAT, it became the toughest if you take into account, right? So still we are because the students who are going to get selected will be within this batch of students who have appeared. So we are the cutoff would be expected to be relatively on the lower side, right? So some questions related to science and technology and sports, I'll be dealing with a brief background about myself. Myself, Nitesh Shankar. I am a BTech graduate from BITS Pilani. I am presently working as a faculty of Science and Technology, Environment Technology at Dr. Rajkumar's Academy for Civil Services, Bangalore, as well as in Narayana, Hyderabad. And I began my journey as a content developer and writer at Vajiram and Ravi in Delhi. So my experience involves having 6 UPSC attempts, mains in UPSC Civil Services examination and Forest Services mains 4 times, right? So I have quite a vast experience among these. I faced interview twice in each of these examinations. And in this vast experience I have gathered over the years, I have found out that this exam requires a consistent dedication and your effort must be towards the practice side. Once you have completed the syllabus, practice, when I say practice, it means appearing for the test, both at the prelims level as well as at the level of mains, right? So lots of practice. So we'll also discuss about the initiatives that Wiley India has brought for the civil service aspirants, like test series and all that we are going to conduct this year, all the year round, and that would be very beneficial for the students who will be opting for this test series, right? So presently we are going to see the questions have a look at how these questions could have been could have been prepared if you have attempted the test series, right? So anyhow, practice is going to be a very beneficial factor in the whole process of examination. And that practice comes from test series and reading standard books, right? Okay, so without losing much time, let's begin. So I have taken the questions from the set B questions. And some questions you might find that these questions are not totally related to science and technology, because this is the nature of UPSC examination. There is no watertight compartment separation as if this question belongs to science and technology and this question belongs to geography or this question belongs to environment, right? Like in this question we are beginning with, we can see it's a question related to resources, and this will have some part which requires knowledge of science and technology. Okay, so let's take a moment to read this question. So this is question number 21, and it said, it's a fairly simple question if I have to say someone who has studied the year round. So the question says that consider the following statements. Statement 1, India, despite having uranium deposits, depends on coal for most of its electricity production. Okay, first statement. Second statement, it says uranium enriched to the extent of at least 60% is required for the production of electricity. Now, the second statement talks something about electricity production and uranium enrichment, right? So if we look at this question, you will see the first part is talking about uranium deposits or uranium reserves, right? Uranium reserves, as you can see. So that is like, if you see, let me use the marker. So this is uranium deposit. So this becomes a statement from the part of geography. In geography, you'll be going to study resources of India as well as for the world, right? And how it is used in energy production, whatever the resources or the energy minerals that we say, like uranium is there, thorium is there, or coal, right, or wind power. These are called energy resources, right? So the first statement is about uranium deposits. Okay, so it says that India, despite having uranium deposits, depends on coal for most of its electricity production, which is true. We, in the present times, are around producing 50% of the electricity generation, so more than 50% from coal. Right, thermal power that we say, thermal power plants. In spite of having huge uranium deposits, like you can see, we have the Department of Atomic Energy that says that we have to the tune of 382,675 tons of uranium deposits. Okay, uranium deposits. So it's a quite huge number. Recently, why this question asked I would say that recently, because there was discovery of uranium deposits in Rajasthan. Very recently, discovery of uranium deposits in Rajasthan to the tune of around 5,000, 5,500, let's say, tons of uranium, right? So this was in news. But this first statement is true because it's a general sense that presently we are developing electricity producing from coal power plant or thermal power plants, right? First statement. So first statement stands true. Okay, so you can obviously eliminate statement D or option D. That is, this option you can eliminate, okay, easily. Now let's look at the second statement. It says uranium enriched to the extent of at least 60% is required for the production of electricity. Now it is something related to science and technology. When we are going to study nuclear fusion and nuclear fission reaction in standard books, that you say, you will find there is something called two types of reactions are there, nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. It is the fission which is used for the production of nuclear power or nuclear energy in nuclear fission based reactors, like the nuclear reactors that we have in India, like Kudankalam is there, Rawat Bhata is there, then we have the Kota is there, then we have Narora in Uttar Pradesh is there, right? So there electricity production is being done using uranium. But for that, enrichment, whether enrichment is required or not, that is the important criteria. So 60% enrichment it is talking about. This is very huge. India, we are using nuclear power, uranium that is enriched to the extent of 3 to 5%. Okay, why? Because we are using natural. If you are using natural uranium has very less concentration. That you can see, natural uranium has only 0.7% of uranium-235, which is the fissile isotope that undergoes fission. Uranium-235 is the fissile isotope. The rest is uranium-238, which cannot undergo fission reaction. Okay, that's why we need enrichment to enrich the concentration of uranium-235, right? This enrichment is to the tune of max 3 to 5% for electricity production, for power generation. Okay, but the statement says 60%. So it becomes outrightly wrong. It becomes outrightly wrong. So we have the answer option as answer statement C, option C. That is, statement 1 is correct, as we saw, but statement 2 is incorrect. It's a fairly simple question. Now, let's look some of the facts that you should know for the purpose of examination for future also. This question might be repeated in a different form in the future, right? So it says that what you should know is why the process of enrichment is required for anything, right? For power generation or for weapon production. For example, if you are using two types of reactor in India, we are using, one of them is your, let me use the whiteboard, that will make it much clear. So we have two types of reactor that we presently use in India. One of them is your nuclear, your light water reactor, or we call boiling water reactor, BWRs. Another of them is your pressurized heavy water reactor, which we are presently using. Most of the reactors that are operational in India are pressurized heavy water reactors. In this, enrichment is not required. In this, enrichment of uranium is not required. Some of the reactors that we are using are light water reactors, that is also called boiling water reactors. Their enrichment of uranium is required. Uranium ore is required to increase the concentration of uranium-235, the fissile isotope. And that concentration enrichment is around 3 to 5%, right? 3 to 5%. So that you study in standard textbooks of science and technology or anything related to energy, right? Okay. So, and another thing that becomes important if you are talking about enrichment is that what kind of enrichment, what extent of enrichment is required for making weapons, like atom bombs. For making atom bombs, we require enrichment to the tune of 90%. So when we say 90%, it is the concentration of uranium-235, right? So natural uranium, which has uranium-238 and uranium-235, which is uranium-238 is majorly 99.3% is uranium-235. This is roughly 7.7%, roughly. So very less for making weapons. For energy, we can use it directly if you are using this isotope, I mean natural uranium, in pressurized heavy water reactors. But for using this in light water reactors or boiling water reactor, we need to enrich it to the extent of 3 to 5%. We need to enrich the concentration or increase the concentration of uranium-235 to the extent of 3 to 5%. Whereas, if you want to develop nuclear weapons, atom bombs, we need the enrichment to go to this limit, 90%. So 90% of enrichment is required. This is being done with the help of devices called centrifuges. Okay, centrifuges. So this is pretty much that will be required even for your future examination. This much of knowledge on nuclear fission will be required. Okay, so this question was pretty simple. Consider this. Okay, so let's move further to the next question. 26, question number 26, set B. Okay, now this is a fairly simple question again, and the question was again on expected lines, because in 2022 also, 2021 also, there's a question on mushrooms. Okay, and by that year, UPSC has given you a hint that let's begin your preparation to study for mushrooms. At least have a brief idea of what mushrooms are, what are the properties of these mushrooms, where in all they can be used, right? So these are, if you look from the very outliner, if you see this question is more or less a reasoning question. I would say that because these statements begin with something like, it says some mushrooms. So mushrooms are quite, I mean, within the kingdom of mushroom, we have wide varieties of mushroom, right? So some mushrooms have medicinal properties. Quite fairly possible we make mushrooms like there is a species of mushroom called militaris. So that is used to make antioxidants, or even that has antioxidant and medicinal properties. It enhances the efficacy of other medicines. Okay. So some mushrooms have medicinal properties. It is quite right. Some mushrooms have psychoactive properties. This was the question related to the last year. It said the question was related to shrooms, which are also called magic mushrooms. Okay, so people use it for getting a psychedelic experience. Psychoactive means something which affects your thinking, something which give a sense of calmness, or give a sense of give a sense of happy feeling, right? Psychoactive compounds are like. So some mushrooms have psychoactive compounds within them, right? Again, third statement, some mushrooms have insecticidal properties. Insecticidal. Now we know that mushrooms are basically fungi, right? So fungi do have medicine, your insecticidal property. They kill the insects that thrive around them, around their site of growth. So it can be utilized for a beneficial purpose if you're using in agriculture, right? And it is found, right? Now, lastly, some mushrooms have bioluminescent property. This was the property which must have confused many aspirants, right? These three, I can vouch that they must have known this, given that last year question was asked. This bioluminescent is a phenomena which is explicitly seen in the lakes, or we can say in the sea. What happens in bioluminescence? Then there are certain species. Bio means what? Biology or bioorganisms. It's related to life. Luminescent means the property to emit light in night, or by absorbing certain radiations, the natural sunlight or any form of light, they can spread light, they can throw light in the night conditions, in the darker conditions. The living organisms, when this property is being shown by the living organism, it becomes your bioluminescent properties, right? So again, this fourth statement was the cause of asking this question. Okay, the cause of asking this. Continue with this. So you got my point, I think. Bioluminescent. This question was asked because there is a species of bioluminescent fungus that was found in Meghalaya last year only, and this was reported in a magazine. So in the bamboo forests of Meghalaya, this species called Rhodidomyces was found in the bamboo forests of Meghalaya. And because of this species was characterized by this bioluminescent property, right? Because of this question was asked. I mean, the fourth statement was set as such, right? So you must be aware of the current affairs. This question highlights the importance of studying current affairs and practicing such questions, right? There will not be questions based on static part only, right? These properties and all, these are obviously you can find in standard textbook, but this fourth option we might find in standard textbook. But because in news it became important, right? So it was found that only few species of glowing fungi, these bioluminescent fungi or bioluminescent mushrooms are called glowing fungi, right? Glowing fungi, have been reported from India. 2 have been reported from Western Ghats, which is a very biodiverse region of India, and one of them in Eastern Ghats. Okay. So fairly simple question, given the fact that if you have read the current affairs, and you can make a guess that when it says some mushrooms, you can take it as a right, this statement as right. So there is hardly, I mean, you can always find exceptions. You cannot be very sure that, okay, there is no such mushroom which has bioluminescent property. So we can go with all the 4. So all 4 statements are correct. So this correct answer is your answer D, or option B, right? So again, let's move to the next question. This question, when I was taking the classes in Bangalore and Hyderabad, I had predicted that there will be at least 2 questions on green hydrogen, and both of actually 2 questions came, right? So green hydrogen, because this was so much highlighted last year, you aspirant should have expected that there would be some question related to green hydrogen, and you must have studied this. Okay. Now, I would consider this question a bit tougher because of this first statement. Okay, so let's first read this question. With reference to green hydrogen, it says green hydrogen. Consider the following statement. Number 1, it can be used directly as a fuel for internal combustion. It does not say anything about internal combustion engines. Don't, take a jump forward. It simply says it can be used directly as a fuel. Can be complicated. It can be used directly as a fuel for internal combustion. We know internal combustion. Okay, we are going to study that. It can be blended with natural gas, used as a fuel for heat or power generation. Okay, fairly simple. And it can be used in the hydrogen fuel cell to run vehicles. This was the news. Our Honorable Infrastructure Minister Nitin Gadkari came to the Parliament using the Toyota Mirai, which is a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, right? So there was a question expected on this one. So this is failure. The third statement is right, no doubt about that. We can use the hydrogen fuel cell, which what it does is that the hydrogen fuel cell produces what do you call electricity using hydrogen and oxygen. There are 2 separate tanks for hydrogen and oxygen, which combine to form electricity, and the only outcome is water, which is it is very environment friendly, and that's why all the research is being directed towards hydrogen fuel cell, right? This electricity is used to run electric vehicles, no doubt about that. So third statement is true. Second statement, it's the clear objective. If you read the National Green Hydrogen Mission document, straight from the government website, you can download it, or from the Niti Aayog report, you can download it. It's clearly written that this green hydrogen mission will be focusing on blending green hydrogen with natural gas, and can be used for anywhere where natural gas is used as a fuel. So wherever natural gas is used as a fuel, we can blend some green hydrogen into it, and use it for various purposes, right? So second statement is again true. It is the first statement which must have created confusion, right? So it says that it can be used directly as a fuel for internal combustion. What would the doubt be that what is internal combustion, and can be used directly? Directly in the sense, can hydrogen be used directly as a fuel? Now again, like CNG, we see if you have read about the CNG or anything, the vehicles that you said, hybrid vehicles, which have 2 sources of power. There, we are also using petrol, or let's say diesel, and we can also convert it into a CNG vehicle. How? We fit a cylinder, CNG gas cylinder, and on the engine, there are certain heads or some type of equipment is fitted, which makes it possible to use CNG, compressed natural gas, as a fuel. Same can be done for hydrogen. The same internal engine, the petrol engine, can be converted into a hydrogen internal combustion engine called HICE or hydrogen ICE, and be used as a fuel. So we can directly use hydrogen for internal combustion, which means hydrogen is suitable for internal combustion. In fact, it is one of the most suitable fuel for hydrogen combustion, right? Okay. So this was all 3 statements here are correct. All 3 statements here are correct. So all 3 answer C. So if you look into the explanation, that you can get the explanation document from the website, right? From the Wiley India website. And if you look at the explanation, you will see that this hydrogen internal combustion engine, it was also in news in 2023 only. In February, there was a news related to hydrogen internal combustion engine on Times of India. The links were given in this explanation document, right? Again, the second statement, I have given you the reference for Niti Aayog report. You should try to reach such standard reports. The outcomes of such standard reports will be summarized in standard books, most probably, or even in the current affairs. So Niti Aayog report directly tells about the blending of hydrogen with natural gas. Okay. So statement 2. And this hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, like I said, our Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari came to the Parliament to create this awareness of using electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles, right? So Toyota Mirai, right? So this was in news. So I've also listed some fuel cell electric vehicles, like BMW has launched iX5, 2023 Hyundai Nexo is in news, Land Rover Defender fuel cell vehicle, okay? Toyota Mirai you can add to this, okay? So there are 2 types of electric vehicle. One is battery powered or lithium ion battery powered. Another is the fuel cell powered. The fuel cell powered are relatively costly. Okay, so like Tesla. and all. Okay. So this was the question, question number 14. So the one question related to green hydrogen. It was fairly expected. Okay, it was relatively simple. Let's move to the next question. 59, set B. Again, this green hydrogen, like I said, there were at least two questions I had expected and it came. So this was again a fairly simple question. If you read the Green Hydrogen National Green Hydrogen Mission document, even the first page of the document, it lists these three. So the question is, consider the following heavy industries. Okay, heavy industries. What are these industries? Number one, fertilizer plants. Number two, oil refineries. Number three, steel plants. Green hydrogen is expected to play a significant role in decarbonizing how many of the above industries? I mean, in what all industries can green hydrogen play a role in decarbonizing? Decarbonizing means using a better source of power, better source of energy rather than using fossil fuels, right? To reduce the carbon footprint. So we have all three. The answer is very simple. All three. If you read the document, first page itself lists that we are producing green hydrogen in order to replace wherever the fossil fuels as a source of energy is used in these heavy industries, apart from transportation industry. So all these industries, if you see the National Green Hydrogen Mission, which was sanctioned by the cabinet on 4th January 2022, it clearly says that green hydrogen can enable utilization of domestically abundant renewable energy resources across regions, sectors, seasons, feeding multiple usage streams, either as a fuel or as an industrial feedstock. In certain sectors, like in fertilizer manufacturing, ammonia, let's say, ammonia, which is a fertilizer, or urea, which is used to make fertilizer, urea, which is used as a fertilizer. From ammonia, it is produced, where we require hydrogen. So there it becomes a feedstock. Hydrogen becomes a feedstock, industrial feedstock. So it can directly replace fossil fuel derived feedstock in petroleum refining. So our option 2 becomes correct. It becomes in fertilizer production, like I said, in ammonia production, urea production. So first option, first point becomes correct, and steel manufacturing, etc. So all three were directly from this document. Again, I always ask my students to read the standard documents, visit government websites, and follow it. And all such questions were found in the test series also. It was expected. So all three. The answer is all three. Again, it was a fairly simple question. Fairly simple question, right? So all three. So let's move to the next question. This was a question which has been in news since last 4 or 5 years. Right from the time when Brazil hosted the Olympics, at that time there was this Zika virus, right? Again, spread from this mosquito. So from that time only, it was in news. It was only a matter of time when UPSC would ask this question. And it came in 2023. It would again come in some different form in, let's say, in the future examination. It has even come in the other UPSC examination, right? So Wolbachia method. Now, I consider this question fairly, if you have read, you can answer it. You can take a fairly good guess. I will describe how you can take that. But yeah, if you have read it, you can easily attempt it without wasting a single second. You can answer it. So it says Wolbachia method or Wolbachia method is sometimes talked in news, is sometimes talked about with reference to which one of the following. Okay. Again, one explainer statements. Statement A says controlling the viral diseases spread by mosquitoes. Okay. Statement B says converting packing material residues into half of such has been eliminated into producing what you call biodegradable plastics. Okay. Then producing biodegradable plastics. Okay. And then producing biochar from thermochemical conversion of biomass. Now, if you closely look, all these three statements are basically similar. Okay. So the only one, it's like finding an odd one out. What do you call an option? It's like taking a risk. If you have sufficiently attempted questions where you are sure that you can safely clear the cutoff, then you can take this risk that, okay, let's find the odd one out. That should be the answer. It generally turns out to be such. Okay, because all rest three options are very similar, and this is something where no any method is required, like producing biochar from thermochemical conversion. Okay, so that's like you can use pyrolysis and all. So there is a technical name for that, pyrolysis. We must have studied in environment. Biodegradable plastic producing, there is no method as such biodegradable plastics, because plastics, if we are using bacteria to degrade plastics, okay, that can become your biodegradable plastics form. Okay, we have not found suitable material to produce biodegradable plastic right now in industrial state. Okay, then converting packaging material into residues into again this form of biodegradable plastic. So this is also not true, right? So only option that was supposed to be true is your controlling the viral diseases. This became a menace in the 2020 the Brazil Olympics, right? And because of that, this was continuously in news. So all kinds of diseases which are spread by viral diseases which are spread by mosquitoes can be tackled using this Wolbachia method. Wolbachia method. Okay. So this is a question which has overlap of environment ecology and science and technology, right? So what in this method, what we do is basically in lab, what we do, we introduce a bacteria into this mosquito, into this viral disease spreading mosquitoes or carrier mosquitoes. So this Wolbachia is basically a bacteria. And what happens is mosquito generally do not carry the viruses for the disease like your dengue or your Zika and all. They do not naturally carry it. They only get, they're only carriers of these disease, which means they are only act as a carrier of these viruses. Once they get this virus from another infected person or an infected organism, right? Okay. So like swine flu, it can be, it is also caused by this, what do you call, biting of the mosquito, right? So what happens is the pigs or the swines, they carry this, the virus. When the mosquito, they bite these pigs, and when this infected mosquito bites another human, it infects the human, right? So what happens is this bacteria, the Wolbachia bacteria, is basically found that it prevents the hatching of eggs of mosquitoes or other insects. This Wolbachia bacteria present in the gut of the organism, right? So what we do in this method, the male mosquitoes with Wolbachia are released regularly into an area by mosquito control professionals. The various mosquitoes are brought into the lab. The various mosquitoes are brought into the lab. They are, this bacteria is introduced into their body, into their, what do you call, the genome. And then they are released in the wild, okay, in the sites. So they will go and mate with the female mosquitoes. But the eggs that will be produced will not hatch because of the presence of this Wolbachia bacteria. So what will happen? The eggs will not hatch, the mosquito population will go down. The mosquito population which is causing the viral diseases which act as carrier, the population will go down and we can have a control over this disease, over the various diseases, right? So Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, which produce a series of disease like your dengue, Zika, chikungunya, okay, yellow fever, right? So that's how we control the mosquito population causing these various diseases. Okay. So this the same has been written that male mosquitoes with Wolbachia bacteria mate with wild female mosquitoes because the eggs don't have the number of Aedes aegypti mosquitoes decreases, and that's how we control, naturally control. Okay. So that's the Wolbachia method. Again, it was a factual information. Those who know it, it would be easier for them. Those who do not know it, they can take a guess, like I said, or else it was a question which was well left, right? So no need to take risk unless until you are very sure. Okay. So let's move to the next question. The question talks about aerial metagenomics. Now, this is something which is obviously not so much. It was not so much in news. Again, this was the question where it requires your what do you call, your skills to break down the term. I would say break down the term. You can make use of what do you call, your English knowledge or English skills. Why I'm saying that is because it is made up of two words. If you read the question, it says aerial metagenomics best refers to which one of the following situations. Okay, aerial metagenomics. Now, just focus on this word for a moment. We'll have a look at the options later on. When we say aerial, it means what? Related to air. So option should have at least air related, something related to air. And metagenomics. We do not know what is metagenomics, but at least we know what is genomics. Right? Genomics is related to genomes or the complete gene or the DNA of the entire organism, of the organism that is of interest. So that is genomics. Metagenomics is like collecting a wide range of information about that genome or organism through use of genomics, through use of genetics, right? So aerial metagenomics. Now, if we know that at least these two words should be there, one related to genetics or DNA, RNA, or something related to air. This should be there in the option. Now, let's look at the options. The first one says collecting DNA samples from air. Now, it has genomics part, DNA samples. Collecting DNA samples from air. Again, it has air. So, it can be the answer. I'm not saying it is the answer. It can be the answer. Let's look at the other options. Okay. It says second option says understanding the genetic makeup of avian species. Again, avian means what? Birds or species which live in air. Understanding genetic, this is there, of a habitat, but it is not related to air, right? Genomics, when you say, it's that complete genome should be there at least, right? So it can be, it is fairly close, but again, it's not only related to avian. Yeah, avian. Avian means bird. It could have simply written birds, right? Then using airborne, again, the air, what is there? Airborne devices to collect blood samples. So we can cut it because we are looking for words which would denote genetics or genomes or DNA. So we can cut this option to collect DNA, blood samples from moving animals. Doesn't make any sense. Airborne devices to collect blood samples from moving animals. Okay, doesn't make any sense. Sending drones. Now it is possible sending drones to inaccessible areas to collect plant and animal samples from land surface. Again, air is not there. We can cut it. This can be eliminated. So these two can be fairly easily eliminated, having a simple look at it. You have to decide between these two. If you have to decide between these two, right? Now, if I would have to take a guess, I'd go with from this. Why? Because collecting DNA samples from air is a whole broader term rather than the second, which is a limited term. Understood? Understanding the genetic makeup of avian species limits this aerial metagenomics to very limited species. Whereas collecting DNA samples from air, the DNA samples suspended in the air can be from any other species or even from humans using, I mean, whatever the weather activity and all is there. Okay, we can collect samples from that, right? Even for evaporation also, it carries some form of pollen grains and all, it can be carried. So it's not limited to avian species only, it can be related to plant species also, right? So this option is a more broader term. In science and all, our outlook should be a broader one, right? So this becomes your correct option. This collecting DNA samples from air. Okay, answer A, DNA samples from air. And this is a fairly simple explanation of what I have already told of this. That aerial metagenomic involves collection and analysis of genetic material, DNA, RNA, from the air in specific habitat or environment. Okay. Now, this material collection can be used for other purposes, like here I have mentioned this airborne particles present in the air, such as your microorganism. It can be microorganism, it can be pollen, like I said. So this genetics can be related to the plants also, fungal spores, fungi also, and other biological compounds. So the broader one is the answer, right? Collecting DNA samples from it. So this was a question. I would consider this more on your English language skills. Okay, you can break down the term. Do not get panic seeing such questions. If you have a bit of discipline, a bit of patience, you can attempt these questions in a fairly simple way. At least you can take a guess, intelligent guess. I hope it's clear. Let's move to the next question. It says something about microsatellite DNA. I consider this question as a tough one because you'll not find it easily in books. It requires some form of research knowledge. Those who have biology background or geology, botany background might have attempted easily this question, but in genetics also, you will not find easily this in textbooks. Because some form of might be there in some research paper and all. Okay. So do not worry about such questions. Such questions are there. If you know, you attempt it. If you do not know, if you have time, take an intelligent guess. If you do not have that much of time, you can easily leave it because these questions are not going to affect the cutoff, right? But practice of such questions is going to help you through the test series and all, right? So the question, let's read the question. It says microsatellite DNA. Microsatellite DNA is used in the case of which one of the following? First, studying the evolutionary relationship among the species of fauna. Fauna means animals, animal species. Second, stimulating the various stem cells, which was in news because of your Nobel Prizes and all, always in news. It's there in the topic of biotechnology in science and tech. So stimulating various stem cells to transform into diverse functional tissues. Now, this is called your pluripotency. This phenomena is basically written is pluripotency. What this statement mentioned is pluripotency, and this pluripotency is achieved using certain genes called Yamanaka genes. So those who have studied stem cells, they can eliminate this option easily because this is there in the syllabus. We have studied this, right? So Yamanaka genes, for which even Nobel Prize was awarded, they are a kind of factors which, when introduced to stem cells, or the stem cells get stimulated once introduced by Yamanaka genes, this can be contained into various functional tissues. Like your stem cells can be contained into the tissues of heart, tissues of lungs, tissues of your eye. So pluripotency, various organs can be formed using stem cells by introducing these Yamanaka genes, right? So this option was wrong. If somebody had studied stem cells, because that was in the syllabus, we not studied microsatellite DNA, but we have studied stem cells, so we can eliminate this option, right? Again, C, promoting clonal propagation of horticultural plants. Now, see, clonal propagation and all is related to your breeding. It does not have much to do with DNA. It is something related to propagation, like your various forms of propagation, like your vegetative propagation, clonal propagation, all horticultural plants. Again, a very limited option. So you can eliminate it. In some sense, you can eliminate it. Okay. And D, lastly D, assessing the efficacy of drugs by conducting series of drug trials in a population. Now, this goes quite outside the what the question is asking, microsatellite DNA, nothing to do with genetics as such, right? Or DNA as such. So you can also eliminate this question, this option, right? So you can also eliminate this option because this is called your clinical trials has been mentioned, or therapeutic efficiency of clinical trials has been mentioned. There is no use of this DNA as such, genetics as such, right? Or genes as such. So option D can also be eliminated. So you are further left with option A. If I have to say, you can left with option A. But this much of elimination requires a lot of studying the basics, studying the other topics. Like all these three are in the syllabus. You can say that this question was out of syllabus. You can say for a sense. And also there, it was not in the news, but at least these three were in the syllabus. So once you have studied these three, efficacy of trials and all already news related to the COVID, clonal propagation, some form of vegetative propagation you study in environment, right? And this Yamanaka genes and pluripotency and stem cells are already there in the syllabus. So if you have knowledge of these three, you will be easily able to arrive at the answer of that. Microsatellite DNA is basically used for studying the evolutionary relationships among species of fauna. Now, what are these microsatellite DNA? It might be asked in the future. However, I do not think that UPSC would take this risk of again asking this unless until it comes in news. Okay. So short tandem. These microsatellite DNA simply means that we have a DNA in our every genetic organism has this genetic material. Every organism has genetic material. In case of humans, we have, or animals, we have DNA, right? Which is a coiled structure like this, helical structure like this. There are certain base pairs which are present, which are bonded by hydrogen bonds on this helical structure or spring-like structure that we see. There are certain base pairs which are bonded by hydrogen bond. So these base pairs are mostly 4 ATCG called adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. These base pairs. So this is in entire DNA, these are repeated. These base pairs are only repeated. These 4 base pairs. In case of RNA, we have another base called uracil. However, for humans which have DNA as genetic material, we have only these 4 bases which are repeated. So this microsatellite DNA are basically this short tandem repeats, also known as microsatellite DNA. Basically, these are 1 to 6 base pair long units like ATCG. This is being repeated in a sequence. Then that segment becomes your microsatellite DNA. What is the use? It is this segment which is used to study population genetics. I mean, what are the characteristics of a population? That is the population genetics. Evolutionary biology, how different species have evolved. That's what the first statement is studying. Studying the evolutionary relationship among species of fauna, like our distant cousins, monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzee, or even for that matter, the snakes, reptiles, or the birds. How the process of evolution has taken place, that can be studied using these repeats, right? Using these repeats. 99% of the DNA of humans, I mean, every human is same. It's only 0.6% or 0.606% is different. 99.94% of the organism's DNA, I mean, our DNA is same. My DNA and your DNA are relatively same, except for this 0.6% difference. This difference is there in microsatellite DNA. I mean, this would be different in mine case and in yours case. So it can also be used for criminal biology, that is like forensic tests or establishing parentage. Okay. So various like studying patterns of gene flow, how the various genes have evolved over the time in various species. So relationship among individuals or species. Okay, genetic diversity and population structure. Right. So this is about your microsatellite DNA. You can arrive at the answer using elimination, or you can have a brief idea that something related to genetics or evolution is being talked about. Right. So I consider it as a tough question. Right. Let's move to the next question. So the next question, again, this is a topic which is fairly simple because carbon fibers have been in use since 2015. It is a part of syllabus of science and technology, right? So any standard book that you do, you must have got this knowledge. Okay. So let's read the question. It says, consider the following statements. Carbon fibers are used carbon fibers are used in the manufacture of components used in automobile and aircraft. Okay. Second statement, carbon fibers once used cannot be recycled. Like we have all used all those tricks and all we have studied, that it's an extreme statement. You can rule out without even making much thought that carbon fibers once used cannot be recycled. Even plastics, even to some extent, are recyclable. So how come carbon fibers are not recyclable? In almost everything that we see is recyclable in some form, right? Reusable and recyclable. So carbon fibers once used cannot be recycled is a fairly wrong statement. It's wrong. It goes wrong. First statement, it says that carbon fibers are used in the manufacture of components used in automobile and aircraft. That's the basic purpose. Why? Because carbon fibers are basically a long chain of fiber which has what do you call the thickness or diameter of 5 to 10 micrometers. That is 10 to the power minus 6. Right. This is the diameter of around carbon fibers. Okay, what happens is that with this diameter, we can produce fairly objects made of carbon fibers which are very light, including with properties like stiffness, high stiffness. So they can bear a huge load, high tensile strength. They can have a huge tensile strength. Then we have high chemical resistance. They can avoid corrosion or chemical action. Right. These are low weight. I mean lightweight. Then again, high temperature tolerance. They can tolerate or bear extreme range of temperatures. Low thermal expansion. See, all these properties can indicate that like planes and all, their body, although made of carbon fibers and aluminum and thought, because we require light bodied aircraft and they move over a range of temperatures at the base when they take off. There the temperatures is like your ambient temperature, 30 degrees Celsius, let's say. But in the height of atmosphere, they travel in around the border of tropopause, right? 10, 11 kilometers. There the temperature is in minus 10 and minus that much, minus 10, minus 20 degrees Celsius. So range of temperatures. So they have huge high temperature tolerance. This property is being used. So that's why these kind of like vehicles also, the engines of the vehicle get heated. So they should be able to tolerate high temperatures. So carbon fibers are like increasingly be used in the manufacture of automobiles. Right, aircraft. The German brand Volkswagen is using this to make the automobiles lighter, faster, and more stronger. Not just lighter and faster, more stronger because of high stiffness and high tensile strength, chemical resistance. Right. So this makes carbon fiber very popular. An application it has in aerospace, like I said, making aeroplanes and all, various components. Civil engineering, bridges and all can also be manufactured. Components of bridges, military. Again, right? So making these suits that we talk about of our soldiers and all, we can use it for making light military equipments also and their variables also. Motorsports, like I said, if you use all the F1 Formula racing cars, they are making use of carbon fibers, right? So various all this stuff they are being used. Okay, so carbon fibers have very wide range of applications, right? Okay. So this explains the first statement is right. Second statement, like I said, the most common recycling process which is used to recycle carbon fiber from composite waste is pyrolysis. You simply heat it. In absence of oxygen, you get a new form of composite material using the carbon fiber. You can recover carbon fiber from that, right? Okay. So that Again, it's a fairly simple question, easy question. But this requires basic knowledge of carbon fiber, which is there in the syllabus. So it's part of the syllabus. Let's move to the next question. Yeah, again, this was like for this question, I consider that you cannot read these stuffs in books and all. You need to have the practice of test series. You need to have a grip on current affairs. Even that after, you need to have a curiosity of day-to-day things, the mobile phones that you're using, the laptops, the tablets that you're using, or for that matter, anything that you're eating. I always advise my students, if you're consuming anything, let's say even chocolate, turn the wrapper, look what are the ingredients, because from that also you should know what are these ingredients, what it is made of. This mobile phone, what it is composed of, what kind of battery is used, like lithium ion battery is currently being used. Okay, so being aware of the things that you're using, being aware of the surroundings, being a curious student helps a lot. So like if you see in this question, the question says something related to accelerometer. Okay, so let's read the question first. It says, consider the following actions: detection of car crash, collision, which results in the deployment of airbags. Now, you must have seen that last year, death of Cyrus Mistry was in news, right? So airbags and all the safety features of car, you should be aware of what it makes use of, how they are being in another feature called ABS. So maybe next year or even in this year means you can get anti-lock braking system, right? Or what is it? And there is something called what do you call? Auto lane assist, right? Auto lane assist. So all these features you should know how these are working. Mahindra is giving in this feature. Okay, so you should be curious. Not everything can be taught by a faculty. Not everything can be there in the books. It's a part of the student once they know the basics to look for these on their own, right? So start being a bit curious. So it says detection of car crash collision, which results in the deployment of airbags almost instantaneously. Okay, detection of accidental free fall of laptop towards the ground, which results in the immediate turning off of the hard drive. Okay. Third, detection of the tilt of the smartphone. This is the feature that we are using daily, right? We change it to landscape to portrait mode, right? Or full screen and that mode. So which results in what? Rotation of display between portrait and landscape mode. This is the feature I can vouch that everyone has been using it, right? In mobile phones, even in laptops, or even in your tablets. So that should raise the curiosity. How it's being possible. Okay. So it says, in how many of the above actions, the three actions that you saw, is the function of accelerometer required? Now, accelerometer by its name, what you can infer is that it's something related to acceleration, right? It measures acceleration. Meter is what? That any device that is used to measure something. So accelerometer, like odometer, measures your mileage or kilometers speed. Accelerometer will measure your acceleration or change in speed or change in velocity, to be exact. Okay, so in how many of the above actions is the function of accelerometer required? Now see, where in all these three actions, whether change in acceleration or velocity is there or not. So like in case of car crash or collision, deployment of airbags is almost instantaneously. Obviously that accelerometer will measure that suddenly brakes have been pushed. So there is a change in velocity, acceleration, deceleration rather to be correct is there. So it can deploy the airbags, considering that it might be a panic situation, it might be an accidental situation. So accelerometer would be required in this, right? Very easy to infer using basic sciences. Second, detection of accidental free fall of laptop. Accidental free fall means what? You were holding the laptop in your lap and suddenly you stood up. The laptop fell. So fell under the influence of gravity. Again, gravity is acting on this laptop. So acceleration is there. Okay, so this laptop was there on your lap and suddenly it fell from your lap. So it is experiencing acceleration, which can be measured by accelerometer. And what it can do is to save the hard drive, to save your data, it can turn off the hard drive to prevent any form of data damage or data loss, right? So this is also possible using accelerometer, right? Like in science and tech, I always say have a broader outlook. Unless and until you are very sure that this cannot be done, assume that it is possible, right? Third point, detection of tilt of the smartphone. That's the best application that we have used, which results in the rotation of display between portrait and landscape mode. Now, some students who approached me, who said that, sir, there is something called gyroscope also, which is being used in missiles. Now, gyroscope is a part of accelerometer only. Gyroscope is going to measure your what do you call inertial reference, or what do you call the directions. Accelerometer is going to measure your acceleration. Gyroscope is going to measure the direction, the change in the direction, north, east, west, south. So in missiles, we are going to use it. I'm very sorry. North, right? So gyroscope is combined with accelerometer, makes use of, is being used in missile systems and all. In our phone also, there are some phones which have gyroscope, but accelerometer is there wherever we require this kind of rotation of tilt or display of rotation of display, right? Why? Because as soon as the phone detects there is a tilt of the smartphone, which means different form of gravity is acting on it. So it says, okay, the phone was upright, now it has become horizontal. So there is a change in acceleration. Measuring that change using accelerometer, it shifts the shape of the screen or the size of the screen, display of the screen, display of the phone. Okay, so all three these applications are correct as far as accelerometer is there. Again, it's a practical question. If you have studied accelerometer, I mean, being a curious student, you must have known this. Else, you can take a fairly simple, you making use of your basic sciences knowledge, right? So it's true. All three are correct. Description, you can have a look through the explanation document from the Wiley website, you get it. And I have mentioned this. So all other areas where it is being used, I have mentioned it, right? Okay. So accelerometer, which was again, this was not in news. It is something that is expected of a student. UPSC expects the student to be curious and answer it, right? Okay. So it's a fairly medium question. I will not consider it tough. I will not consider it easy. I will consider it a medium question. Okay, let's move to the 86th question. It's related to, again, such questions are not purely based on science and technology. These are related to current affairs also. These are related to geography also. So like the question says, consider the following pairs, objects in space and their description. So first object is your Cepheids. Second object nebula, third is pulsar. Out of which I assume that you must have heard about nebula in geography or in science, right? Nebula is what? It's like the birthplace of stars or planets. So if you're talking about stellar nebula, it becomes the birthplace of star. Stellar means star. If you are talking about planetary nebula, it becomes the birthplace of planet. Okay. So let's read the options for Cepheids. Cepheid was in news. So, giant clouds of dust and gas in space. Okay. If you do not have any idea, you can just read it. And then next, nebula, stars which brighten and dim periodically. Now, having read geography, even the basics of geography, you know nebula is like the region of birth of stars and planets. So it's a giant cloud of dust and gas in space from where stars are born. Gas, when you say, let's say, stars are made up of hydrogen only, so gas, there the fusion reaction will happen and it will produce energy, and dust. So planets and all, right? So this has been exchanged. If nebula, definition of nebula is this. Okay, so which means this option 2, I mean this second nebula has been matched with option 1. So it's wrong. So obviously Cepheid is also wrong. So it's possible that Cepheid, the definition of Cepheid is like this, stars which brighten and dim periodically, which is actually true. So if you know nebula, you could know that these two are wrong, right? Because nebula's definition has been present there in the first part. Okay, so these two are wrong. Pulsars, always in news. Neutron stars and pulsars are always in news, right? It says pulsars are what? Neutron stars that form when massive stars run out of fuel and collapse. Those who have studied star cycle, I mean, what is the life path of a star? Those they study that a giant star would either die as a black hole or as a neutron star, right? So this neutron star, if it starts emitting radiation, okay, and it becomes a pulsar. Pulses of electromagnetic radiation, it starts emitting, it becomes a pulsar, right? So it is fairly simple, it is true, right? Fairly simple and it is true. So only one pair is correctly matched. So answer is your A, and explanation for the same has been given. Like Cepheid, like I said, it has been exchanged. Cepheid is a star that varies in light and intensity over regular measurable periods. Like over a period of time, if you look at a star, its intensity, that is the brightness and dimness, would vary. Such stars become your Cepheid, right? Okay. So NASA had found one Cepheid. It was there in the news in January 2023. So if you go through the current affairs, you might find it. Again, nebula, like I said, is part of the basics of geography and science. Star cycle you study. So nebula is what? A giant cloud of dust and gas in space. Some nebula, more than one nebula, come from the gas and dust thrown out by explosion. You can read it, and that's So nebula where are the regions where new stars are born. So basically we're talking about stellar nebula. There are also planetary nebula for where planets are born. So nebula is the region or the birth region of stars and planets, right? Pulsars, like I said, are rotating neutron stars. So neutron stars, it is basically when a star, let's say 5 times as heavy as sun, what happens is so big star is there, it will reach a stage of supernova explosion where when its fuel gets exhausted, it will explode. So it will undergo a supernova explosion, and because of its massive weight, massive gravity, it will collapse upon itself once the fuel is exhausted. That's what has been written. That when massive stars run out of fuel, that is your fusion fuel, that is hydrogen, they collapse upon itself due to gravity. Right? There is nothing to support the outward emitting energy of the star. Once it has fuel has run out, so it will collapse because of its huge weight of the gravity. So that becomes either a neutron star or it becomes a black hole, depending on the mass of the star, right? So Chandrasekhar's limit, all we have that studied, right? The neutron star or black hole, right? Okay, so that was there. So all again, this is considered as I consider it as a simple question using your knowledge of geography as well as science and tech, right? So one part was from the current, and the other two you at least have known. Okay. So question number 86 is this. Now let's move to the question number 87. Again, a fairly simple question, direct question, no use of any concept and all. Once you study NAVIC, or Indian GPS, or what you call the Indian Regional Navigational Satellite System, you must have studied about other nations' navigational system. So it says, which one of the following countries has its own satellite navigation system? Now, NAVIC was asked 2 times. So one could have guessed that at least something related to NAVIC or maybe something related to other GPS system would be asked. So the options were Australia, Canada, Israel, and Japan. So answer is fairly simple, Japan, which is called Zenith or quasi-Zenith satellite system, QZSS. Zenith. This is the Japan's regional navigation satellite system, right? Like GPS, which is a global positioning system of US, provides navigational coordinates for throughout the globe. Similarly, other nations have also developed. We have our own, what we call NAVIC, navigation through Indian constellation, navigation with Indian constellation, right? NAVIC. And similarly, Japan has QZSS, quasi-Zenith satellite system, which is operated by JAXA, and it was first launched in 2010, right? So it has a coverage of Asia-Oceania region over Japan and Australia, right? I've also mentioned some other systems which are there, so you can have a read on this. So US has this GPS of US, GLONASS of Russia, Global Navigation Satellite System. Beidou by its name, all you can guess, it's of China. IRNSS, which has been renamed as NAVIC. And we have Galileo, which is of Europe. Galileo of Europe. And then we have QZSS. So this was there in the notes, there in the lectures. This is there. You can find it in standard books also. And many test series have also covered it. So it's not fairly simple question. Okay. So let's move to the next question. So the next question, again, it is something related to defense technology, and we studied this in the classes. So again, it's a very simple question. Those who have studied over the various kinds of missiles, not even some factual information is required. The very basics of missile system was required. Okay. So it says, consider the following statements. Number 1, ballistic missiles are jet propelled. Ballistic missiles are jet propelled. Okay. At subsonic speeds, it tries to take you through their flights. Okay. While cruise missiles are rocket powered only in the initial phase of flight. Now, if you study ballistic missiles and cruise missiles, these are the two kinds of missile that we study. There is another hybrid variety of missile is also there, but these are the broadly 2 categories that you will find in the documents at the defense, what do you call the defense websites, right? Indian defense websites. So ballistic missiles are basically what? Ballistic missiles simply follow the path of parabola or trajectory. Like we throw the ball in the air, you just put some explosives in the ball and throw it with some initial speed, it becomes your ballistic missile, right? So we have like this ground is there. Ballistic missile will be launched from this target, let's say, and it will follow a path which has been more or less predetermined, because initially whatever the velocity is given using a rocket. It's like a rocket only. Like your rocket is initially using some thrust, some boosters it is used to launch. So it will give in some direction and some power using rockets, not using jets, right? And it will follow a predefined path more or less. Once you decide its inclination or angle of projection and its speed, it more or less, the target is more or less fixed. You cannot change its course midway. So it's like a parabolic path. It's like the path of a ball that you throw in the air. So that is your ballistic missile in very simple terms. Just put in some explosives in that part, it becomes a missile, ballistic missile, right? So the first statement, first part itself is wrong. These are jet propelled at subsonic speeds throughout their flight. There is no concept of throughout their flight in ballistic missile. There is only concept of initial powering the ballistic missile using rocket power, no jet power. So it becomes wrong. No need to read the second part. However, in second part, if you read, it says cruise missiles like our BrahMos or Nirbhay. These are rocket powered only in the initial phase of flight, which is truly wrong. Why? Because cruise missiles like our BrahMos, these are called treetop missiles or low-lying missiles. Why? Because they cruise or they travel very close to the land, very close to the height of buildings that you can say. So it's like they require guidance. I mean, they are locked for a certain target. Even if the target starts moving, they will accompany it, they will follow it. So that guidance will require using jet engines, scramjet and ramjet jet engines. Rocket will not be able to do that guidance. So it has been written that cruise missiles are rocket powered, which makes it wrong. And throughout their flight, they require guidance because you cannot leave the target in between. If the target starts moving, let's say the target is a moving aircraft and you have launched the BrahMos missile. And the aircraft, because it is moving, the aircraft is moving. So this missile will also chase it. So throughout their flight, it will require the use of jet engines. Throughout their flight, they require the use of guidance. So fairly simple question, fairly simple option, right? So that becomes your, so statement 1 is wrong. Statement 1 is wrong. We can cut it easily. And both 1 are also noted. Second statement says Agni 5, always in news. Agni 5 is a cruise missile. All know, very simple, that Agni 5 is an intercontinental ballistic missile. It's a ballistic missile. So it becomes wrong. No need to read it. Again, the second part, no need to read. And it says Agni 5 is a cruise missile, while supersonic solid fuel BrahMos is an intercontinental ballistic missile. Just exchanged, right? This statement, Agni 5 is an intercontinental ballistic missile, while BrahMos is a supersonic cruise missile, right? So statement 2 is also wrong. So both statements are wrong. So it has neither 1 nor 2. Fairly simple. I have given you the explanation. You can read it through there. And the basic difference is this one, right? Okay. So it was again an easy question. Let's move to the sports section. This was all related to science and technology, including current affairs of science and technology, right? So sports sections. It says the first, the UPSC's focus has in the recent years shifted towards sports, towards at least the awards in sports. Like before 2020, there was very less question related to sports. Very less, I would say there were hardly any questions from sports, or there were 1-2 questions, let's say, from the movies, those which are in news, like Ramanujan was this. But what we are seeing currently is that there is a trend of current affairs related to sports. So it becomes important to practice and read about such sports-based current affairs also. Okay. So this trend might increase. Well, last year, there was a question on Laureus Sports Award, World Test Championship and all, right? So there you can expect such question, and the best way to practice such question is through test series and all, and read current affairs solidly, right? So let's read it. The first question is actually not related to sports in the form that it's not a question of sports as such, it's a question of sports and awards combinedly. It says, consider the following pairs with regard to sports awards. Okay, so various kinds of sports awards exist in our country. The first one, like it is mentioned, is Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award, which was previously Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award. It has been rechristened as Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award. So we all know it is the highest sporting honor of this country, and it has been given. It is given for. It says that it's for the most spectacular and outstanding performance by a sports person over a period of last 4 years. Yes, it is true. This statement is true. If you go to the website of PIB or any standard Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, it mentions this, right? Okay. So it is true. Again, the second stage, Arjuna Award for the lifetime achievement. Now this Why would a lifetime achievement be awarded and be named in the term of Arjuna? Right? It might be named in the name of Bhishma Pitama. Like in movies, the lifetime achievement is in the given in the name of Dada Saheb Phalke, right? Because he has been a legendary, he's called the father of Indian cinema, right? So Arjuna Award. You can guess that it is wrong for the lifetime achievement by a sports person, which is wrong. True. Third is Dronacharya Award. Now, Dronacharya was what? He was the leader of the Kauravas in the Mahabharata war. He was the guru of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, right? So it's obviously it is being given for the coaches or the gurus. So to honor eminent coaches who have successfully trained sports person or team. So it seems to be true. It is true, right? Dronacharya Award for the coaches. So just focus on this. So statement 3 is true. Statement 1 is true. I mean 1 and 3 are true. Then it says Rashtriya Khel Protsahan Puraskar. Now, those who have a knowledge of Hindi, they will make a good use of it. It says Rashtriya, the national. Khel, sports. Protsahan, which means what? We are trying to promote. Protsahan means to give encouragement, to give, promote sports. So, Rashtriya Khel Protsahan Puraskar. And it says to recognize the contribution made by sports person even after their retirement. Now, this doesn't seem that there is no sense of promotion as such, right? They're not promoting some sports, right? So, this simply said they are contributing to recognize the contribution made by sports even after retirement. So, it's like a lifetime achievement that you are going to give. So, it's not related to protsahan, right? It's not related to encouragement. So, this is wrong. This is wrong, right? So how many of the above pairs are correctly matched? We found that only 1 and 3 are correctly matched. So 2 pairs are correctly matched. So answer is B. Only 2 pairs are correctly matched. And it says, explanation I have already explained that Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award is highest sporting honor of India, awarded annually by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India. And objective is the same, like for the most spectacular and outstanding performance of a sports person over a period of 4 years. Let's read about the Arjuna Award, whom it is given. So Arjuna Award takes into account again the sporting performance. Sporting performance of outstanding. It's given for outstanding performance in sports and games, and it's second highest sporting honor of India for outstanding performance in sports and game given for good performance over the period of previous 4 years, right? And for showing qualities of leadership, sportsmanship, and a sense of discipline, right? So it's given Arjuna Award, right? Okay. So there is no concept of lifetime achievement as far as Arjuna Award is concerned, right? Dronacharya Award, we have already said. And incorrectly matched is your Rashtriya Khel Protsahan. Now, like I said, Protsahan is for encouraging any sports. So this is to given to corporate entities or the NGOs or the various sports board, including sports bodies at the state and national level who have played a visible role in area of sports and promotion and development. So some form of development, if you have taken any step, any NGO, any company, any corporate or any sport body has taken any interest or steps to improve that condition of sports or promote that sport, that becomes eligible for Rashtriya Khel Protsahan Puraskar. Okay. So this was a bit tricky if you have not read about sports. If you have gone through the PIB, what do you call the analysis of sports award, this year's sports award, which were given around the Republic Day, you could have easily attempted this question, right? So let's move to the last question. And it's again related to sports. This question was also expected because this was the first time we organized the chess Olympiad, right, in Chennai, Mahabalipuram, near Chennai. So it said they consider the following statements with respect to the 44th Chess Olympiad 2022, right? It says first statement is it was the first time that Chess Olympiad was held in India. Okay, this was true. The official mascot was named Thambi, again true. We have 2 words, Thala and Thambi. Thala means elder brother, whereas Thambi is the younger brother, right? So Thambi, which is a horse, the Thambi, this mascot is basically a horse wearing a lungi, and this has been named as Thambi. Third statement says the trophy for winning team in open section is Vera Manchik Cup. Now this becomes very specific in chess, right? So that's why it is important to know such current affairs and questions. So it says the trophy for winning team in the open section is Vera Manchik Cup. Okay, we do not know. The trophy for winning team in the women's section is Hamilton Russell Cup. You can make a fairly guess that name Hamilton is the name of a person or male person. So this is definitely wrong. Okay. And I think this has been exchanged. Vera is the name of a female, seems to be name of a female. So these two are basically has been exchanged. So only two statements are correct, 1 and 2. So only two pairs of statements are correct, right? Two pairs of statements are correct. So this is again related to current affairs. It was expected given that this event happened for the first time in India. I mean, this was the first time that Chess Olympiad was hosted in India, hosted by India. And like I said, it happened in Mahamallapuram or Mahabalipuram and 2022, which is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It occurred from 28th July 2022 to 9th August 2022. Okay, so it's the first time that India hosted this, and it was the first in Asia in over a period of 30 years. After 30 years, it happened in Asia, right? So statement 2, like I said, Thambi, which is a chess knight. Knight, as you know, is the horse, which is dressed in the traditional Tamil male attire of Veti with a white shirt. Veti is your lungi. In colloquial terms, we call it lungi, or Veti is the lower garment. Okay, and this is the white shirt. So he is depicted folding hands, exchanging Tamil, getting vanakkam, which welcome, right? Statement 3 and 4 are incorrect. These are team prizes which are given in the chess championship, which includes first place in the open section is given Hamilton Russell Cup. Like I said, it has been exchanged. So winner of the team winner will get in the open section will get Hamilton Russell Cup, whereas the women's section, the women winners will get Vera Manchik Cup, and combined classification will get Nona Grapindishapelli Trophy. Right. So that was the question related to sports. Right. So with this, we come to the end of the discussion of this year's prelims questions of science and technology and sports. For more details and all, you can follow us on the various social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Telegram. On all these explanation, this video will also be available to you, and this explanation document will also be available to you on these channels and the Wiley website. And we are going to launch this year the All India Test Series, which I am very sure is going to help you in preparation of this examination in the coming years. Right? So that's all for me. Thank you and have a good day.